How do you gain sponsorships and collabs? What is your how do you do that?
So running it back to admissions recruitment, right?
Okay.
It taught me that sometimes you have to be the voice in the room when no one's speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Public speaking was one of those things where I developed because I was a performing arts kid, so that was something I was taught, right? But as you get older, you're like, all right, I don't necessarily have to do that unless I'm an orientation leader, of course. So
Right.
it taught me that sometimes you just have to do it. You have to go out there and put yourself, even if no one asked you,
Mm-hmm.
put yourself out there. Same way with influencers and collabs,
Yeah.
it just has to be genuine. And that's what I tell anybody. The collabs that I work with now are people that I actually work with or just supported
Mm-hmm.
or products that I've used prior.
Got you.
And the reason why is because when I do collab with these people, I want it to make sense to my followers. Like, well, no wonder you collab with such and such. You always talk about their product. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'm a slide in the DM type of person when it comes to collabs and influence. I don't, hey, it's me. I done tagged y'all like 10 times already. But in case you didn't see it, it's me. Listen.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy back again with another episode of Big Boss Talk, the podcast. You already know how we like to do it. I got another top tier guest, based off, it was a recommendation. Like, it's crazy how deep into people's networks I've gotten to, get into just off recommendations. And it shows me that everybody knows somebody that's super dope, that does something creative, that's really, having fun with it, having success, but just in their own lane versus the typical ways that they tell us that we can have success. But let me give y'all a rundown of my guests, all right? So I got Tyler Carter, age 28, career/job. She's with recruitment/admissions, college degree. She got her liberal arts, English, and then mass comm concentration. Years in her profession is 5. So she's like half a decade into her profession. So I know she got all the ins and out a little bit, the scope of the land. And so we're going to get all of that. But before we start, Tyler, say what's up to the podcast.
Hey y'all, what's going on? So happy, so blessed to be here. Thank you so much for reaching out.
For sure.
Hey y'all, hey everybody tuning in. Let's get into it.
Let's get it. Hey, but also it's your nick. Well, is AKA Fro Bay, right?
That's right. Fro Bay is the what Megan Thee Stallion is to the Stallion, Beyonce, Beehive, Tyler, and Fro Bay. That's how it works.
Okay, let's get it, man. So listen, we can't start the podcast without 2 truths and a lie. So hopefully I can guess the lie.
Okay.
So because black people can't lie, but we're gonna find out.
And that's a lot. But okay, so here we go. I am right-handed.
Okay.
I am the only girl on both sides of my family. And I have never broken a bone in my body.
Bro, those are good. That's real good. Okay. So left-handed.
I'm right-handed.
No, okay, so you right-handed. Number 2 is
I am the only girl on both sides of my family.
Wow, the only girl on both sides of the family. And
I've never broken a bone in my body.
Okay, I'm gonna say, all right, man, broken a bone. I mean, that sounds like believable. You know what I'm saying? Never broken a bone. Like, knock on wood.
You're trying to fish out the answers, and you're not gonna do that with me. You're gonna have to figure it out.
I'm glad you caught on because I love people be like, I be catching them.
You're not gonna do that with me. You can't do that with me.
Dang.
Look.
Okay, I'm gonna just guess. I'm gonna say, all right, I'm gonna go with the first one. I'm gonna go with the first one just because I feel like left. Well, I just feel like that's the lie. That's the
You're
lie.
right. That's right.
Okay, cool. Let's
Yes,
go.
and I know where you're going. Lefties are like creative.
Yes.
Lefties are very, innovative. They usually are some of the best thinkers.
Right.
And yes, I am a lefty.
Let's go.
Never broken a bone, and I'm the only girl right now.
That is crazy.
That's
For
right.
real. So, I mean, I definitely left these, you know what I'm saying, very much creative. I could just look at, like, you go through your Instagram and just look at the
That's good.
aesthetics.
That's a good one. I was trying to mix it up. I should have put it in the middle.
Yeah, like maybe in the middle. But I mean, I thought about saying the only girl on both sides of the family. I'm like, that's super rare.
It's super rare,
like,
right?
to be the only-
It's the thing.
But I was like, maybe she'd throw me off. But cool. So we good with that. Appreciate that. 2 truths and a lie.
No problem.
Next, what we're gonna do is we go into this thing what I call hot picks. All right. So I got 4 questions. All
Okay.
right? Nothing crazy. It's just very unique questions that maybe people want to know, right? So,
Okay.
number 1, what is the one thing that drives you crazy about being natural?
Ooh, child. Okay. One thing that drives me crazy about being natural.
Yeah.
People comparing my hair to their journey.
Wow.
It's so natural hair, unfortunately, is a win-lose situation sometimes, where you win in that you'll talk to someone who, like myself, may be an influencer, content creator, and they give you ideas, they give you suggestions, and all of that.
Right.
And people will go and support you or go buy that product or go do that particular style, and it does not come out like yours made or did.
Right.
So it's like, hey, I tried such and such. Why is my hair like not down my back? Why is my hair like not bouncy?
People
and I'm like, listen, sis, listen, bro. Respectfully, your hair is yours. Your hair is unique to you.
Yeah.
You should not, just completely rat your hair because it's not mine.
Right.
Your hair is special to you. Don't do that, because now you're discouraged. Now you want to cut your hair off.
Yeah.
Now you cussing me out. And I'm like, listen, I just gave you the option to do it. I gave you the suggestion to do it. So I would love for people to understand that although we may have the same hair color, we may have the same curl pattern, but sometimes it's just not going to look exactly like that YouTuber or that influencer or that Pinterest picture that you saved to your mood board. And that's okay. It's supposed to look like you, not necessarily like that person. So that's something that drives me crazy, because I get a lot. And I love every last probate that I know and that knows me. But I have to tell them sometimes, listen, before you start,
this
disclaimer is not going to come out just like mine, because my hair is brown, thick, and irritated. And yours might be soft, curly, and all black. It's not going to look the same, and that's totally okay.
Right, man. That
drives me crazy.
That would drive me crazy, because like people just assume that you could copy and paste, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially with
Control C, Control V. and then you want to troubleshoot and you want to call Apple when it don't look right. And I'd be like, I'm sorry.
Not calling Apple.
Whole time it looks gorgeous on you.
Right.
You just haven't let it set in long enough for you to get used to it. Like, just calm down.
Right.
Scarf it up, take a nap, wake up, and you'll actually like it.
Right.
So yeah.
And I'm sure it took you a long time as far as like going through trial and error to understand.
Yes, natural hair is all about trial and error. If you don't like for your hairstyles to not hit, you're not going to survive. There are so many times with color, with hairstyles that I'm like,
ooh,
okay, all right, we're going to try this next weekend, because I'm 2 seconds for chopping this all off. And I tell people that all the time, like, that's a lot. That's where my whole brand came from. Like, people need to see there are mistakes in natural hair. If you do make a mistake, at least you're making the mistake in the right direction. Maybe you have too much of this, too less of that. It's totally fine. But just make sure you have progressive progress. And I know that sounds crazy, but yeah.
Nah, it makes perfect sense, man. Like my wife, it goes through these trials and errors all the time. So I hear it all. You know what I'm saying? Is some days where we want to do braids. Like, I just want to do braids. Next is like, I'm
And you end
tired
up
of.
with braids, or you end up with a big puff, or you end up slicking it back because you've been up all night trying to do this style you saw on TikTok. And
Right.
you're like, you know what? Cool, I'm not gonna get it, and I gotta get up in the morning for work. So puff
Okay.
it is, bun it is, whatever. Who cares?
Right. No cap. Cool. So, number 2, what is your go-to hairstyle? Like something that you just like.
Man, come on, man. I would say right now,
Yeah.
my go-to style is a braid out. I'm a braid out fan. It's one of those things that I had to literally, it was a trial and error thing, where I was like, okay, if the braids are too small, they get tangled up and then it don't look right. But if I do it too big, then I look like a runaway slave. So I need to do it like on the in-between. But now, do I use a lot of water or do I use a lot of moisturizer? And I finally got the freaking...
You got the recipe.
I got the recipe. And ever since then, it's something that's quick for me. So like where I'm already coming home at 8:39. Split my hair into like 6 sections, braid it up, put my bonnet on, sleep.
Right.
Get up, banging. I'm like,
ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, like sis doing her job today.
I got me a little routine now.
Yeah.
It's over with. So yeah, braid outs have been that girl.
Okay.
Right now.
For sure.
It'll change next month, but right now it's a braid out for sure.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Okay. So then number 3, man, if people that don't follow you should definitely follow you. You know, obviously we're gonna, put everything in the description, put it in the video. But
okay.
I looked, just going through the Instagram, I guess I'm trying to say it's very much eye pleasing as far as like the reels, the color coordination. How you get so good at reels? Like, what's the key?
Thank you. So what's the question now?
How did you get so good at reels? Creating reels.
So hear me out. I don't know if you've been on Instagram lately, but they changed algorithms, like they changed draws. So it's tough to keep up sometimes.
Right.
What I've noticed is that Instagram is competing now with TikTok and even YouTube with trying to keep people's attention for a short amount of time.
Gotcha.
With me, I have one niche, and that's natural hair right now. And I'm like, okay, how can I make my one thing trend with these 5 other million things that may have nothing to do with what my audience is looking at?
Right.
I make sure that I either have orange somewhere, because orange is my brand color.
Okay.
That I make sure that I have a trending sound. Do I like the music? Absolutely not. Half of the time, it's something that I wouldn't actually put on a playlist at all.
Wow.
But most of the time, if I'm speaking, you don't even hear the background music, but it's a part of that algorithm. It's being put into that multi-universe.
Yep.
And then, just making sure that I'm posting it at a time where my audience would tap into me. Reading my analytics, reading my insights, and saying, okay, 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, Monday through Friday is like the average time that people clocking in. Probably need to post this around 11 or maybe 10:30. That way I get the bulk of my audience. I come back and I'm like, okay, we went from like 200 to like 1,200.
Right.
Take a note of that. Be like, okay, I posted this at 10:45. So the last time I posted it was like 10:47. So obviously around that 10 o'clock time is when I need to post it. And I know that seems very like stickler, but it's the only way that you're going to keep up with the ocean and the waves that is Instagram. So yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. So, I mean, it is necessary. So I'm trying to be like, I'm a natural guy. And so for me, I just feel like post, you know what I'm saying? Like no matter what, just post.
Oh yeah, post regardless. And that's the only way you find out. I mean, sometimes you just gotta post and then come back to it and see what's working. If you post throughout the day, post one in the afternoon, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, if you have that sort of content where you can just shoot it out. And then go back and be like, okay, well, the 9 o'clock one didn't really do too hot, but the one at 7 o'clock took off. So now you just do a process of elimination.
Gotcha.
And then, if it feels natural to you, just completely you forget the time, but just make sure you have the trending sound. And people know Big Boss Talk, he always got, a yellow in the front before he do his videos. Right. Or he always close out with like a weird sound or something. Make sure people remember you, like some sort of memento.
That's dope. And that's a gem for everybody, not just me, obviously.
Oh yeah, that's for anybody. Especially if you're trying to jump into this content creation world. It's simple stuff. Yeah. Believe it or not, it's just meticulous.
And you gotta have fun with it. You gotta learn how to have fun with it. Don't get frustrated. So it's like that. But I want to hop into the conversation now. So I always ask this question, Tyler. What did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a gymnast growing up. Hear me out. I was an athletic child. I was in every extracurricular activity there was with regards to basketball and all that softball. I didn't do that.
Gotcha.
Track, cheerleading, dance, ballet, everything, gymnastics. I was in it all. So I decided gymnastics was my thing. Found out there was like, you can go to the Olympics, you can go to college and do this. And I'm like,
not a young Simone Biles.
That's all I got to do. I'm going to do this in high school, do it in middle school, go to college and do it, get a full ride and do it, train for the Olympics, and I'm just going to be a gymnast. That's going to be my job.
Right. And so, what changed? So you wanted to be...
Let me say something. Life changed. My body at a certain point was like, girl, sit down for you not have no bones. Your bones gonna be broken by like 20.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like as I got older, having a lot of muscle and then not staying active, those muscles deflate like a balloon. So if I wasn't doing gymnastics, I was doing something else, and my body was like, girl, we need to sit down. We need a break.
Wow.
I didn't have that break. So a lot of the times when I got injured, my body never healed from those injuries. So it just seems like one injury after the other. I was like, I ain't got no ankle replacement. Like, the brace is not helping. The rapid tape is not helping.
Right.
So, and your doctors and all of that, thank God for Black doctors. My doctor was like, you trying to have kids? Are you trying to...
It was that serious?
You trying to keep your muscle memory? You want your brain to work at like 25?
Yeah.
You need to slow down. Like, respectfully, it's keeping you in shape, which is great, but it's also killing everything, estrogen, all of that. It was just too much. It was too much on my body, so
I'm glad.
Then we just started getting into other stuff. I'm like, well, my body done tapped out, so it's time to learn something. So yeah.
That's what's up. So obviously we almost had a young, Simone Biles before Simone Biles.
Man.
But things happen. So then, what was
when people say, I could have been Simone Biles, but if my mama wouldn't put my perm, if she wouldn't put a perm in my head, I could have been Simone Biles. Like, that's really what it is. I could have been Dominic Dawes. I could have been Gabby Douglas. Like, I had that was me.
That's crazy. Okay, so then obviously we had to let go of sports. We had to let go of gymnastics. What was your mindset then? How did you transition over from being an athlete to now I need to figure out what my career is going to be?
Okay, so my mom was one of those like, okay, let's sit down at the table and talk about this, because she was team gymnast mom. Like, I'm gonna be that mom sitting at the arenas, with my shirt on, with my pom-pom. Mm-hmm. And she said, okay, as you're growing older, you're understanding that these are extracurricular activities. Right. But the curricular activities need to be the forefront in case these things retire. So now, she's like, well, if you had to, put those things on the back burner, what would you be doing? Mm. I said, Mom, I really love books. I'm a book girl. I love words. I love playing with words. I love poems. I love writing. Yep. She was like, well, do you want to be a teacher? I was like, I never really thought about being a teacher. I didn't like I like some of my teachers, but I'm like all of them. Nothing inspired me to be a teacher. But I was like, okay, Mom, I'll consider that. But I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna be famous. So you don't have to worry about that. So my mom was like, okay, well, let's start going to the library. Let's start investing in your own library. And my mom was an English major. She was very much into English and computers. So I was like, okay. We would go to the library like whenever I wasn't doing track and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay, I like this particular genre. And we would buy books or get books from like the thrift store or something that catered to that. Yeah. And I come home and I'm like, summer I didn't have much of a summer, but whenever I go to like dance competitions, I'm reading a book. Or whenever we're on a track meet, I'm reading some sort of book. So eventually when I got into like middle high school, English classes were, becoming something I was the most involved in. Where, if there was a question about what character did what, I'm like, ooh, so he did this in the book. Well, can we talk about how he should have did X, Y, and Z? Like, it was just that intriguing and that interesting to me where I would create my own narratives based on a book that I had to read in class. So that kind of triggered, okay, reading, English, language arts, you got a path there. And teaching actually started in high school. I took a class in high school that was catered to those who wanted to be teachers. Okay. And I was like, I can make my own, like, this gonna be my show. I can teach y'all the way I want to teach y'all because I'm very expressive. So I didn't like being out of this, just writing stuff out. So I was one of those get up, move around.
You were able to create your own curriculum?
So with the class, we were able to write our own lesson plans based on elementary students, so like K through 5. Gotcha. And then we would go literally right across the street to an elementary school, middle school, kind of shadow that teacher and kind of see what their, curriculum and lesson plans were and see where we are, like leverage. Are you on the right track? Are you nowhere near? Like, what's going on? Teaching patterns and stuff like that. So eventually at the end of that class, we actually taught a class. Okay. And with me being the way I am, I was like, man, these kids are not going to remember anything if I just teach them what their teacher's always been doing. So let's switch it up. Like, we're going to do like some jazzercise, about, some sort of story that they may know and love. Let's switch it up. Yeah. And from that point on, I was like, if I could do this all the time, we might have something.
We cooking with some grease.
I don't know. So that's where the path I went into in college, and then things just spiraled from there.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to the Fort Valley State University in Fort Valley, Georgia, HBCU. Don't play with them, okay? Okay. The real 1895.
Now I got another Fort Valley
student. And shout out to my sis Ashley Smith J that was on here. And we're gonna have another Fort Valley Wildcat on here after this. Okay. That's how we do it. Anyway, but yeah, Fort Valley is my alma mater. I absolutely love my university.
That's what's up.
Top to bottom.
Them HBCU students, man, y'all be having that pride. Hey, y'all love it.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
HBCU pride is unmatched. It's untouched. Okay, we may even have rivals, but at the end of the day, it's still HBCU over everything.
It's love. It's love. I like it. Man. Okay, so then we graduate school. Obviously, we got our degree. How do we land into recruitment / admissions?
So hear me out. It's not the most smoothest transition, but I go into Fort Valley. I'm a freshman. I wasn't the best in math, so I had to do like a summer school before you got into school. And honestly, I had the best student leaders, the orientation leaders who would, give you a tour of the school, say, hey, this building was, named after a founder or such and such. This is where this class, this is the band, blah, blah, blah. You go to the CAF on Wednesday, that sort of experience changed my whole world. Because honestly, at first, my mind was set on Georgia State.
Gotcha.
I was an Atlanta girl. I'm an East Atlanta girl. So I was like, I'm going to stay in a city, blah, 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 blah. My grades weren't the best. So Fort Valley was quite literally the only option for me. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, I was like, Like, I don't want to, like, Fort Valley.
You felt too good.
Too good, like, on this pedestal the whole time. This is cool. That's like, girl, look, get your life together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I got there, my student leaders were like, listen, whatever you thought about Fort Valley, completely forget about it. We're going to teach you about, small schools having this huge heart. And I promise you, by the end of this summer school, whatever, you are going to be Team Fort Valley, so much so that you're going to be doing what we're doing. So I was like, bet, don't challenge me. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks in, I remember my aunt calling me. She was like, hey, you okay? Girl, I love it. I love it. She was like, already? I was like, I'm not coming home. Don't even worry about Thanksgiving break. Like, I love it here. And it was just a matter of, with us being a smaller school, the fact that everybody had some sort of a familiar role. And not only that, Fort Valley has some of the best agriculture students, has some of the best engineering students, has some of the best band. Like, if you don't have pride in what you invest in, it just doesn't make for a good experience. So when the time came for, the orientation leaders that were graduating, I was like, let me just take a gander at what this could be. And what turned into me being an orientation leader, year 1, year 2, year 3. And I'm like, girl, you like doing this. Like, it's fun to, pour into students that you might see 3 years later graduated from Fort Valley and said, hey, look, it all started because you said X, Y, and Z, or you showed me X, Y, and Z. So things like that is what really set me off when it comes to admissions and recruitment. So
wow, that's dope. I mean,
here we are.
you hit on so many different things. I will say Fort Valley, the agriculture is, you guys have, there's a guy on, I think it's Netflix or Hulu. He went to Fort Valley State. He's like a top veterinarian. Like, he got this show. He got his own
They're
show.
brothers. It's 2 of them.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, and I was like, dang, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got his own show.
Hey, we small, but we making moves, okay?
Big moves. But you talked about, obviously not having the best grades and then being able to take that step. For people that may be in that situation, like, may not have the best grades, but they know, they want to go to school, they want to do well. What's some advice you can give people that may struggle in the classroom, but have the potential, just like you, to excel at a very high level?
So 2022 advice, I would say grades at this point in time are only a reflection of your effort, but they do not show what you can do outside of the effort you put into the classroom. You are more than what you put into the classroom. But it also means that if you want to be successful, you at least need to put some sort of effort in the classroom. But I also understand that everybody's not book savvy. Yeah. Everybody doesn't have book smart. Some people street smart, but you have to turn that into something. You can't allow that to be your crutch.
Gotcha.
And with me, I was like, look, I'm not really the best mathematically, but I'm gonna make sure I'm really, really strong everywhere else so that it balances out. And that's my advice. Just make sure that you don't allow that deficiency, I would say, in whatever subject that you feel like, bro, no matter what I do, this one class I can't pass, or these 2 classes I can't pass. You really, really need to make the effort to at least try. Because now teachers nowadays, if you put in the effort, they will work with you.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if you feel like you're already defeated, then they're not going to help you, and you ain't helping yourself. So it crosses out. But just don't allow that, whatever that is, to be a crutch to the point where you just completely negate what your future could be because you're focused on the 2 things that are just not clicking. Right. And quite honestly, some of the best in the world right now, creatively, professionally, artistically, whatever you want to say, have had moments in school. They were not like 4.0 scholars at all. In fact, the reason why they got into their businesses, their careers, is because they had to have some sort of outlet because of the lack of effort or the lack of, you not knowing.
Right.
So we're out here. I'm not promoting, you just giving up on your education because it's what you need in order to get to the next level. But don't allow it to be a crutch. Use the resources around you to get you to the next level.
That's huge. I think when you look into going like to different colleges, you want to look and see the resources they may have, how they were going to benefit you. I'll be honest. I went to school based off of me being an athlete. I just wanted to play ball. If it wasn't for ball, I probably would have went to school for one because I'm looking for something that's in my major, and then two, I'm looking to see where I'm gonna have the best time.
Right.
which is cool, but I also think that it is very important for people to, if they can, go to view different colleges. I didn't have the
certainly. Yeah.
I didn't have the opportunity to go to multiple different colleges and see the campuses. I went to a couple, but I definitely know I could have did more. And so I will put that out, not only with the gyms that you talked about as far as like, just because you're struggling in one area doesn't mean there's not opportunity for you to, obviously excel in life after that class. Now, being in admissions, if somebody wanted to be, going to admissions, obviously somebody changed your, somebody changed your life. Going to Fort Valley changed your whole outlook on what that looks like. Somebody, created a culture, you enjoyed it. If somebody wanted to be in admissions, how do they go about being in admissions? What makes you good at what you do?
I think what makes me, first of all, someone that wants to be in admissions, or maybe you feel like you want to be in a role where you can help people, because that may not necessarily be in admissions or recruitment. That could be anything. I think that personality in this role makes you stand out. Because honestly, you can go into any field and there's some sort of admissions. You can get a house that's going to be a realtor. That's an admissions process, believe it or not. But with school, you've been to school. So there is a personal connection. It may not be a mirror image of yourself in that student or in that person, but you know what you felt like when you went to school. It doesn't have to necessarily be college. It could be high school. It could be elementary school, middle school. You know what your first introduction to your first grade teacher was like. You remember that because regardless of what your experience was like, you knew that first grade teacher or that, 12th grade teacher, that homeroom teacher gave you a vibe, gave you a sense of either, okay, she's cool or I don't know. Admissions is the same way, except we have to make sure you're good on the front end and knowing if it's college related, knowing that you know what the school is about, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And on the back end, making sure you have all your records and stuff like that. Okay, that's straight too.
Gotcha.
But you have to be very strategic in that, you can handle paperwork because there is no admissions process without some sort of paperwork. Yeah. And that's about 40% of it. The 60% is really selling. You're selling whatever you are administering, whether it be a school, a classroom, whatever the case, a car. If you don't understand or have some sort of personal touch points or hot spots for your audience, it's always going to be awkward for you. It's always going to be like, oh, I don't want to talk with these students. I don't want to talk to them. I don't have nothing to say. It's because you're not being relatable to
personable.
Them. And that's something that with me, it makes it fun for me. No matter where I go, we used to travel and go to different high schools to talk about Fort Valley. And I'm like, okay, these are STEM students. I'm not a STEM major, but I can talk about how I'm not a STEM major and yet I'm talking to you about my school, which means that my school provides the equal balance of creative and STEM. And, finding that one student that you're like, oh, I know you're difficult. Let me see how I can get to you, or like that student that may come to you after you finish your whole segment and go, hey, I really didn't want to ask my question out loud, but A, B, and C, you're like, girl, okay. And they see that you can kind of cut that professional voice off and be like them. Yeah. That's what makes it fun. Because I'm like, I knew I was going to have at least 2 students that was going to come up to me and say something. Yeah. I didn't expect it to be homegirl. But okay. you know, and then they enroll and then you kind of see them bloom and blossom. And now they're, you know, a part of this, a part of that. They graduate, send you a graduation invitation. You're like,
Yeah.
the same person
That
was scared to
scared.
ask me. Now you Mr. and Miss. Now you Miss Fort Valley. Now you're doing this. So that stuff like that is what keeps me going in that particular, you know, realm.
That's dope. So, I mean, obviously, I feel like you got to be, you know, you have an interest of being a spark plug to people's journey, you know, getting them going, because I've done that. Like, I remember my admissions lady, you know, going to school. She was like, you're going to have a great time, da, 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 da. Like, you know, this is where you probably need to be, you know, or X, Y, and Z, just showing me different places. And then I see her walking around campus. I'm like, hey, Miss Thompson, da, 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 you know what I'm saying? And she like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, like we don't forget about you just because you start going to school. Now, there are some that will annoy you to death.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's like a 10% out of the 90% that's like really loving. Like, hey, you told me about those 8 o'clock classes. I'm like, look, I told you.
For sure.
I told you. It ain't like I'm lying to you, so I told you. So, yeah.
That's what's up. Okay, well, I appreciate that you going over what you do professionally in admissions. I did have this question as far as like, what's the end goal? But I'm gonna say that to later, because I think it might tie into, you know, what you do obviously off to the side as far as like content creation. Talk to me. You know, obviously you are a influencer for natural hair. You know, when finding your niche. I mean, how did you just know that natural hair is gonna be me? This is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty sure you had other ideas of like how you was gonna hop in.
So hear me out, and this is crazy because it ties back into Fort Valley. The process started in Fort Valley. I was a perm. I had a shortcut, buzz cut in the back. I was given very much like me alone.
Fantasia.
If you can imagine that, with the red. I had red in the front. You really couldn't see me. But I got to the point where my hair was growing out and I couldn't perm it. I couldn't cut it. I couldn't dye it. I couldn't style it. And I was like, okay, we're going to have to do something about this. So eventually it got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to cut it or I'm just going to grow it out and see what happens. Because I didn't have a car. So it wasn't like I could go to a hair salon and do it or go home and get it done because I didn't have money like that. So growing out my hair in college, Fort Valley, it was a learning curve for me because, again, I'm so used to seeing my face a certain way and all of that.
Yep.
Grew my hair out. I had a little cotton ball phase where it wasn't long enough to style, but it wasn't short enough to cut. So I'm like, grow that out. And I started accessorizing. And eventually I was like, wait a minute, I kind of like this. Like, I really don't have to do too much to it. And I got really creative where, you know, I started playing with, perm rods, curl rods, foaming mousse, and gel and bobby pins and all of that stuff. Because when your hair is perm, you really can't get as creative. I didn't really. So then when I got to a certain point where it was long enough to style, I was like, do a little mohawk, do a little once. You know, it was just like a reoccurring thing where every phase of this natural hair journey, I'm learning more about myself and how creative I could be. When I graduated, I was in a phase where I wasn't really, I don't know. I was like, I feel like there's something there with the hair thing, but I don't know how to do it. Like, I've been thinking about it. And it's one of those things where when you're finding your niche, it's that thing that everyone else sees, that the light bulb has yet to click for you. People will be like, girl, your hair is so pretty. Thank you. I love the way you style your hair. Oh, thanks. He's like, girl, your hair is always growing. How do you do it? I'm like, girl, all I do is use X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, hold on.
That's crazy.
This is it. Like, what's wrong with me? And it was a matter of me buying a sketchbook and I would write down things that people would ask me, people would say to me, and everything would be hair related. So I'm like, Now coming up with a brand can be difficult because once you find your niche, you're like, all right, cool. I know what I want to do. Now, how do I put it out there?
Right.
You know, what's the best way to present it? That way people go, about time. Like, dang, we've been waiting on you. Yeah. Like, you want that sort of reaction. But For me, it was the name. Like the name had to be something where they go, of course Tyler would do that, you know?
Right.
And once I found the name, I put it out there. It was like, bro. And I'm like, yes, this is it.
How many names did you have? Like how many names did you just like?
I wish I could show you. I wish I could show you. I had 2 pages front and back of names.
Bro, that's
like I wanted to incorporate my actual name with, you know, what I was doing.
Right.
I would come up, I would be like in the middle of my sleep, and be like, ooh, this, and write it down. And then in the morning, I'm like, nope. And I was on the phone with one of my mentees, actually, who went to Fort Valley. And I was like, bro, I'm so frustrated with this. Like, I was like, oh my God, that's it. I gotta get off my podcast. And it was like, from that point on, everything just flowed. The colors, everything like that just kind of gradually started coming together. Right. So your niche is something that comes naturally to you.
Okay. That
when you go out in public, people are like, girl, I like how you do that. Or why don't you start a channel about that? People are telling you what you should do. You just have to listen.
That's crazy. Okay, cool. So obviously, I mean, you know, we start doing content. We start doing stuff that you like. Obviously, people coming to you about hair. You know, asking you different questions. Then you had the brand. What did you learn, like your branding process? Obviously, everything came to you, but there's you know, some type of, was it just a matter of just doing it, just putting it out there, and then learning along the way, or did you have some type of, you know, process in place?
It was like a mixture of both. Okay. I'm creative in that way where when something comes to me, it can all come to me, like all at once, like from the name to colors to, you know, maybe a theme. I'm big on themes anyway. So when It's Frustrated came to me, the colors varied because the name looked good in a lot of colors. Gotcha. But I was like, what's a color that if I can use it by itself, it still makes an impact? And orange was something that it was like a reoccurring color that I would make with other colors. And I'm like, okay, just use orange. And, you know, orange looks great on Black people. Orange is beautiful. Just a universal color that you can use throughout the year in terms of branding. So I put it out there first. Okay. I didn't have any font. I didn't have any like crazy thing. I just had the name. And I knew that I wanted the name and I wanted the, you know, natural hair being centered around the name. And it wasn't until like 6 months later that I was like, okay, girl, we got something. We need to get back in the lab and like actually make this look like an actual brand rather just a big name.
Got you.
Because eventually people are going to say, okay, well, what is this Frustrated about? And you can be like, that's a great question. Like you want to have some substance behind just a name. And that's what I learned actually after the fact. Because I knew I wanted to do it and why, but not having that all together in like in an elevator pitch or speech sort of arrangement, it seems very thrown together, which is something that you don't want, you know, coming into a big content creation world. So a part of it was developed from the name, and most of it was developed after it already been produced.
Got you. I think any brand, any content creator, or I mean, for me, what I've seen is they get better over time. Like it doesn't it doesn't start off, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I want people to understand you gotta have patience, you gotta have you know, the willingness to learn in that sense. But how did you, I'm trying to figure out how to, so obviously, what was that one post or one moment that made you say, nah, this gonna be it? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a hit.
Oh, I don't want to sound crazy, but I had a lot of moments. Okay, I will say 2 moments. I had one moment when I was on YouTube and I posted my very first video. And I was like, Ty, if you get 100 views, we've done our job. If you get 100 follows, we've done our job. And the first video hit like 600. I was like, we famous. We did it. Let's go. Like, call my agent, call my people, tell them to quit their job. Like, I was lit.
Yeah.
I made like a thank you video, thinking 600 views
Not the thank you.
600 views was it. Like, I'm in the game.
Yeah.
Man. Lord of behold, I actually stopped doing YouTube because YouTube was not catering to me and what I like to do. TikTok, Instagram, short version stuff, it's just fits me. But the second time is actually when I went to Curl Fest, which is like a natural hair fest, in 2018. Okay. I don't know, 2018, 2017, whatever. And, you know, with me, orange is my color, so I'm going to wear these big fluffy orange pants, blah, blah, blah. And I had so many people coming up and be like, hey, are you so-and-so? And I'm like, girl, how do you know me?
Not too famous.
How do you know me? What is going on? And, you know, even the World Natural Hair Show this year, I'm like, Frobe? And I'm like, what? Like, wow. Yeah, we from Chicago. We from such and such. We follow you. And I'm like, excuse me? You're from where? And dope. You know me how? Like, and some people are just so bamboozled that, you know, people are literally genuinely surprised. And I'm that person.
Yeah.
So it's just moments like that where I'm like, okay, we may have a presence somewhere. Surprise! I'm like, wow. All this time, I'm thinking it's just, you know, people that went to Fort Valley with me that know me.
Man.
And then you go to these places thinking, okay, just make sure you network and all of that. And people like, orange something. And I'm like, yes. But how do you know? Like, oh, I follow you. Okay, cool. Let's take a picture. I'm like, girl, why? I'm regular. Like, we just regular people. No. But it's very, very, very refreshing and rewarding to have moments like that.
Man, I know that's dope, man. Because to you,
you gonna have your moment. You gonna have your moment.
Listen, I ain't even here for the moment. I just want the content to surface and be justice for somebody.
And that's what's gonna come back to you. You're gonna have somebody walking up to you like, man, I watched that video with such and such, and that changed my life, or that really made me think about things a different way. It's coming,
right?
If it hasn't came already.
But I want you to embrace it because you definitely got a niche. You know what I'm saying? You excelling in it, and you just got to keep doing your thing, and just keep.
I'm trying.
Keep putting. I know it gets hard. The discipline of it.
I'm trying not to go bald. That's all.
That's it. So, how do you gain sponsorships and collabs? What is your How do you do that?
So, running it back to admissions recruitment, right?
Okay.
It taught me that sometimes you have to be the voice in the room when no one's speaking, right? Mm-hmm. Public speaking was one of those things where I developed because I was a performing arts kid, so it was something I was taught, right? But as you get older, you're like, all right, I don't necessarily have to do that unless I'm an orientation leader, of course. So. It taught me that sometimes you just have to do it. You have to go out there and put yourself, even if no one asked you, put yourself out there. Same way with influencers and collabs. Yeah. It just has to be genuine. And that's what I tell anybody. The collabs that I work with now are people that I actually work with or just supported or products that I've used prior. Gotcha. And the reason why is because when I do collab with these people, I want it to make sense to my followers, like, well, no wonder you collab with such and such. You always talk about their product. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a slide in the DM type of person when it comes to collabs and info. Hey, it's me. I done tagged y'all like 10 times already, but in case you didn't see it, it's me. Listen, I don't know if you have, any, collabs or influencer programs open for now or the winter or the summer. I'm just putting my name in the hat just in case. And what you'll find is some people will reach back and be like, hey, we don't have anything right now, but we're putting you on the PR list.
That's dope. That's dope.
That's all I wanted. Yeah. That's all I wanted.
That's it.
See, now I'm about to build that relationship with you from the bottom. We started with a PR list. 6 months later, I got a mini collab. Six months later, I got this 6-figure deal. Gotcha. It shows the progression instead of you just popping out of nowhere.
For sure. With
this brand, like, hey y'all, buy this. And they like, girl, you don't even use that. So, so just shoot your shot for real.
Yeah, man.
Email these people, get the emails from their Instagrams. A lot of the times they have it right in their email, right in their bios.
Yeah.
And contact them and say, hey, if this is not the right place for influencer or content creator, can you point me to such and such?
Right.
Most people will say, hey, this is the right email for that. But that's all I needed was an email. And then you pitch like your life depends on it.
Yeah, you got to pitch like your life depends on it. You made a good point. When you're trying to collab or do a sponsorship, make sure it makes sense to the audience. I learned that from Shanice. Like, one of the things,
the guru of all content right now.
Man, listen, she the guru. Her fans gonna ride. Like, she got a little
ride or die. We ride or die gang.
Yeah, like
okay?
Look, hey.
Ride or die gang. Yes, I'm a ride or die gang member. Okay. Listen, period.
That's crazy. But that's something that I learned, right? Just by watching, and then we talked about it on the podcast. Because I was the type of person, like, I was just like, man, I just want a sponsorship. I want to start making money. But it gotta make sense. So, like, for any content creators out there, you gotta, obviously shoot your shot multiple times, just like Tyler said, and then it gotta make sense. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I know sometimes you might have to start off doing some stuff for free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then,
a lot of people don't like that either. A lot of people say $50. I'd be like,
that's something you
this is $50 less than what you had yesterday. So take that $50 and let that $50, invest or, kind of just marinate.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that $50 to have 200 subscribers or 200 followers to their platform. Mm-hmm. They see that you bring in revenue or you bring in people and they go, okay, my bad. Let's consider, $1,200. You go, what? Well, had you not taken that $50, you would have never got to that $1,200. So just small steps when we starting out. But don't let them lowball you either. Right. Just be intentional, be wise with the decisions you make.
Gotta have that discernment. But I'm telling you, somebody thought that first $1,200 check, I might quit the job. Nah, I'm just playing. I ain't gonna do that. But that's dope. And so, believe it or not, we've reached an hour of the conversation.
Oh no!
I'm not saying this. I got a couple more questions, but it's like 4
Go
questions.
For it.
Right?
I'm here.
But I just want you to. I like to let people know, like, because some people be nervous to get on podcasts. Like, they like, I don't know. And I'm just like, it's really fun, like, to have a conversation.
Look, you're not one of them podcasts where I gotta hold my breath and make sure that you're not gonna say nothing crazy.
That's the biggest thing that I try to take pride in, is to not be one of those. You know what I'm saying?
Don't be one of them. Well, you're not one of them.
I don't want to be one of them, and so that's why
you're not.
This is my niche for me. But this is the last couple of questions. These are what I call kind of like my non-negotiables. Meaning this is what I want. Kind of obviously what people to get out of the conversation. We talked about so much different stuff, but I want them to understand you and just give us an understanding about the things that you do. So, number one is, what advice would you give someone to find their passion? I know that's a very broad question, but I feel like right now we're in a time where people want to do what makes them happy. And so, what advice do you have for someone?
Someone who is wanting to find their passion.
Mm-hmm.
For someone like myself who is actually still in the process of doing that, I will say that the most beneficial advice that I could give someone that is like me is to take more time for yourself. In a world that is very social media, look at me sort of world, sometimes you have to step back, learn how to implement more self-care and kind of that meditating, sitting in your own stuff, sitting in your own problems, sitting in your own accomplishments, and finding those little like nuggets of peace, nuggets of like identity within that self-think. Right. that's the best advice that I could give. Like sometimes you are in your own head because you cannot get to that small voice that is telling you everything you need to know, but you can't hear yourself because there's so much going on around you. And the only way that you can get to that small voice or that inner child, as we call it, is for you to literally hone into silence sometimes, or some lo-fi music even, or just that drive home where it's no music playing, but your thoughts are constantly like generating these things that either make you happy, they make you nervous, they make you stressed, and like filter those things out. Figure out, okay, that's not serving me. That's not serving me. This is serving me. This makes me absolutely the happiest I've ever been in my life. Yeah. Write those things down and look at them and go, wow. Okay, I have talked about Rice Krispie treats a lot. Maybe I'm passionate about cooking. Maybe I'm passionate about baking. Maybe I need to invest more into, baking culinary school, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But you don't do that if you're constantly like on the same like wavelength as whatever's trending at that moment. You have to literally stop and be like, all right, I'll check back in when I know more of myself.
Yeah.
So once you do that, you'll find that your passion will speak to you, because it's going to be the one thing that you cannot interrupt in the midst of all the noise.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be loud. But I think that's kind of some of the best advice I've heard, because like I took a cleanse from my personal Instagram. So I got the podcast Instagram, because I was like, that's one of my goals, is to build that. But I don't follow everybody that I follow on here, so I'm not seeing everything that I can see on my personal. And I would tell you, for 6 months, the amount of less stress, just because I'm not watching everybody, is crazy. And I know it's hard. I know it might seem crazy to say that, hey, stay away from social media when you're trying to be a creator, because that's what you gotta depend on. But I like you said, you couldn't have said it any better. You gotta find peace in a world full of chaos, because it is chaotic, out there when you're on social media. So like, you gotta find that peace. So I resonate with that to the fullest, and I think that's some of the best advice I've heard.
Thank you. I can only say that because, again, I'm in that place right now where I consider myself a multi-hyphenate. So I can do a lot of things. I'm good at a lot of things, but I want to find either that one thing or a couple of things that I'm truly like, no matter if there's no money involved, if there's no resources to help me, if there's no audience in front of me, I still feel fulfilled with that thing, or with that profession, or with that whatever. And I don't think it's something that just happens overnight either. I think the journey is what makes it, valuable. Yeah. But definitely, sometimes you just gotta be like, all right, we gonna do not disturb until tomorrow. I'm gonna cut the TV off, cut these lights off, and we just gonna get into whatever we got going on and really filter out what just does not matter. And it's not something, that's something you also learn and develop. Certainly. It takes time, for sure.
So this could go either way, because you do two things. I would love the answer maybe for both, but do you love what you do? If yes, why? If no, why as well?
So I'll talk to 2 points. When it comes to admissions and recruitment, I love doing that. It is, like I said, finding the inner child in me and other people, figuring out what their hot points are, figuring out what their major might be, seeing the end results of that. Whether it be, hey, that one child that gave you a hard time graduated top of his class, or hey, those group of guys that, kind of clung to you when you really didn't want them to are now fathers, and they have great relationships with their kids because, they learned all of those principles or enhanced those principles in college while I was there watching them. And that's something that I think you like to do, but you love it so much so that you continue to do it. Content creation, I don't love it yet because it can be a headache.
Yeah.
I love what I produce. But sometimes how it gets out there and how it's conveyed to people can be a little weird because, you know, you have the way you want the content to be and you have the way you want it to be received. But everybody doesn't think like you. And once you get it out there, you see comments or you get feedback and you're like, no, that wasn't okay. Well, okay. You know, and that comes with time because you know, you can be sensitive to things that you feel passionate about too. So do I love it? I love to do it. I love to create, but sometimes the actual pushing of that creation can be a headache.
Got it. And then the last question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, to be completely honest, I see myself, and I'm going to say this with the intention of this clip being cut. So when I get to that point, I can be like, I called this. I really see myself on a tour, like Sarah Jakes Roberts, but about like natural hair, lifestyle, like DIY, crafty, creative, this like creativepreneur, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
But me speaking, I see speaking engagements. I see me traveling the world, literally telling little girls and people how to tap into their creative potential. Yeah. And that there is a creative in everybody, even those that are militaristic, who may be very minimalistic, that don't, you know, feel like they have that thing that makes them super artistic.
Right.
It's in everybody, and you just have to extract that with certain, you know, activities and stuff. But I truly see myself being Tracy Ellis Ross, but like on a much more creative level, if that makes sense. But visually, that's what I see.
That's dope. We praying on it. When you put it out there, so we.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm trying to put it in the work so that, like I said, when we get to that point, it's like, oh, get that Big Boss Talk clip.
She said it.
I said it. I called it. So yeah.
Have you thought about creating your own product?
Have I thought about what now?
Creating your own hair product.
You know what? So you know how in the beginning of this conversation where he was like, what is your niche? And it's like the people that come up to you and say certain stuff and you're like, I guess I need to do that. Yeah. That's one of those things. Wow. I hadn't thought about it because honestly, people's scalps are completely different. Yeah. And I would hate to like make something that messes up somebody's scalp and then I'm responsible because I'm very empathetic. But I think that's one of those 5-year things as well. Somewhere down the line, you know, maybe me doing something small and just seeing how that works and then kind of growing on that. But it's been said so much that I'm like, God, what you trying to say, bro? Man. Like, I need you to plan this out because I'm not even seeing products, but that's what everybody's seeing in me. So what are we talking about here? So yeah.
Hey, listen, you and Shanice could make a great collaboration.
Yeah, that's one of my inspirations when it comes to stuff like that. Like she is phenomenal. But she actually has a degree in chemistry. Right. So, you know, it makes sense. A liberal arts major, I don't know. What's his name?
Hey, listen, it's all good. Well,
hey, I'll never say never. How about that?
That's dope. Well, Tyler, thank you. It's been an honor.
It's been a pleasure.
I've had fun. Hope you had fun.
I did. I always have fun, but I enjoy just genuine conversation, and that's what that feels like. So, or that's what this feels like. So
that's dope. Thank you so much. So,
anytime you need, you just call.
I got you. So whenever, if you ever got something going on, any way we can help, let me know. You know, I always, you know, when people hop on the show, I try to support them throughout their journey. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I appreciate it.
People that I just met, I'm posting their reels. They like, why is this guy posting reels? I'm like, listen, you did me a solid. I just want to at least return the favor as
absolutely
the way I can.
Absolutely.
And so you get that from me. I need your recommendation. That way I can reach out to them and we're gonna get them on the show. So who you got?
So I think that your next, it really depends on which way you want to go, but my recommendation, the first people that come to mind is actually 2 people and they're together, okay. Keith and Ray. I don't know if you know about them, but they are, I just think dynamic in like Lana, which is a brand, a clothing brand, but also like a lifestyle sort of brand. And they actually just got engaged or married, actually. So I think they are a reflection of where love is headed as a gay couple. And I think that's just something that would be fresh for the channel. And they are really cool. And that's my recommendation. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to give it too much. But check them out. I think that would be really dope.
If you can send me that, whatever information you got, whether it's their Instagram, whether they got an email, phone number.
Absolutely. I can send you everything. Yeah. Whatever you need to know, I got you.
Got you. And I'll reach out to them and we'll get them on the show. But Tyler, thank you again. I'm going to let you go. Man. I hope you have a great evening. And nothing but success for you.
Thank you. Same to you. Yeah. Blessings, prosperity to you and yours. You are doing a wonderful, wonderful thing with this podcast. It's really, really good to see positive, uplifting podcasts right now. So we need to make sure we push this as much as we can so we can really balance the scale. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for inviting me. Anytime you need me, call. If you need a natural hair, representative, call me.
Got you. Thank you. You have a good night, okay?
You too. Enjoy. Thank you, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it.
It's a wrap.